What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Bunch to cover. Let's jump right in. Let's start with the NBA playoffs. We had the Magic. We're starting on Saturday. I'll say I didn't do a show on the weekend, as per usual. Magic beat the Pistons 113 to 105, and they take a 2-1 series lead on the one-seed Detroit Pistons, 25-12 and 9. Nearly a 25-point triple-double for Paolo Banchero. You had his partner in crime, Desmond Bane, also had 25 points on 7 of 9 from downtown. So big games from those two as Orlando takes a 2-1 series lead. The Magic aren't a bad 8 by any means. They're gritty. They're good enough defensively that they can make it a series, but we just thought not good enough offensively. They have progressed defensively from last year as good as they are defensively this year. I think everyone knows Jamal Mosley was gone. They looked to check out the end of the regular season, but obviously they beat Charlotte in that last playing game to get in. They have a shot to beat Detroit. They're up 2 games to 1. Thunder beat the Suns 121 to 109. No J-Dub, no problem. 42 points, 8 assists for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 33 and 7 rebounds in the loss for Dillon Brooks. But kudos to him. He's played some really good basketball this year for the Phoenix Suns. He came over on the Kevin Durant trade. And Jalen Green's been bad this year. He's had a great postseason overall, especially in the playing tournament. Thunder up 3 games to 0. That series appears over. Knicks get even with the Hawks, 114 to 98, 20, 10, and 10 for Karl-Anthony Towns. Much better effort from them than the New York Knicks. They were led pretty much the whole game. They owned a pretty big lead going into the half. They're up 14 at the half, and then they were up like 21 going into the fourth quarter, and they just kept pounding the whole time. I think my math was off. Yeah, they were up 21 going into the fourth. Yeah, that's correct. But they win by 16, pretty much dominated in this game. Hit the threes a lot more. 114-98 Knicks win. 2-2 going back to Madison Square Garden tomorrow. And the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets 112 to 96 despite losing Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo in the game. Edwards has a hyperextended knee injury. He's going to miss multiple weeks, so it's definitely the rest of this series. Could be the next series, assuming they move on. And Dante DiVincenzo tore his Achilles, so he's of course going to be out for the season. He'll be lucky if we see him at all next year. It's a really tough break for Dante DiVincenzo. He's a really likable guy. Was a full-time starter all year for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now he's out for the season. But Ayo Dosunmu plays hero ball. 43 points for Ayo Dosunmu. Of course, former second-round pick by the Bulls. Been in Chicago the last few years. Gotten better every single season. Was traded to Minnesota for Rob Dillion at the trade deadline and has played really well. And the best game of his career comes in Game 4 of the first round against Denver. 43 points. Rudy Gobert, another great defensive effort against Jokic, holding him to just 24 points. And now Minnesota's up 3 games to 1, but no Anthony Edwards and no DiVincenzo the rest of the series. So that's going to be tough. They did play Anthony Edwards for a bunch in the regular season and still played pretty well, stayed in that top 5-6 range in the Western Conference the whole year. So they can definitely still close up the series, but doors definitely cracked open for the Denver Nuggets. And then yesterday we had the Raptors beat the Cavs 93-89. Real old school basketball game, 93 to 89 in this one. Barnes 23, 9, and 6 in the game. Brandon comes on late to sneak past the Cavaliers. James Harden had 19 points in the game. 40 Cleveland Cavaliers on 6 of 14 shooting. So Raptors take them both at home and tie a series of 2. We thought the Cavs would handle the Raptors no problem. And went up 2-0, looked over, but it's back at 2-2. The Spurs beat the Trailblazers 114-93. Half 2 halves, big second quarter for the Trailblazers. Put them up by 17 at the half with a monstrous second half by the Spurs to where they outscored the Blazers 73-35. They win 114-93. Of course, Wembanyama's returned to the line, but did not play in Game 3 because of the concussion. 27 points, 12 rebounds, 7 blocks, 4 steals, 3 blocks. Incredible game. 28 points for De'Aaron Fox. Avdia 26 in the loss. Spurs win by 21 in the game. Celtics beat the Sixers 128-96. Absolutely blow them out. Joel Embiid returned to the lineup. 26, 10, and 6. Tatum 37-11 in the win. By the way, I will say, kudos to Jason Tatum. he's played fantastically since coming off the torn Achilles, as miraculous as that is. Boston up 3-1. I don't even think Embiid should have came back. He clearly wasn't himself out there. His stat line looked fine, 26, 10, and 6. That's obviously a good line to have. Especially when you haven't played in a couple of weeks, you get thrown into the fire in the middle of the playoffs. But just one of 6 from three. You can tell, obviously, when you put a guy like Joel Embiid in there, kind of throw him in there. He's a 7-footer who can shoot the three, and I'm the biggest Embiid hitter on the planet. I think he's overrated as hell, but that's the fact. That's the kind of player he is. You got to kind of change your play style with him in and out of the lineup, and you could tell Philly really struggled with that. So Celtics wins 128 to 96. And the Rockets finally got a game to beat the Lakers 115-96. No Kevin Durant in the game. So now he's got a sprained ankle and a bone bruise in that ankle. If it was the regular season, he would miss a couple of weeks. I don't see him playing the rest of the series. Tony Eason, 28 and 5 steals. Alfred Sengun reached up or step up. So Houston cruises, wins by 19. They avoid a sweep. They're now down 3 games to 1 as the series shifts back to Houston for game 5. And quickly, speaking of Victor Wembanyama, he wins Defensive Player of the Year, so congrats to him. First ever unanimous Defensive Player of the Year in NBA history. His teammate Keldon Johnson wins Sixth Man of the Year. I thought maybe it was going to be what's his name? Was it Jaquez? Yeah, Jaime Jaquez. But Keldon Johnson wins it. He had a good year for the Spurs, so kudos to him. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker was Most Improved Player. I really thought it should have been Denny Avdia, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker did play really well. He's an underrated player. I talked about this with Redbox last week when he called in. He's a good player, and he wins Most Improved Player this year in the NBA. Got some baseball to talk about. The Toronto Blue Jays have removed Jeff Hoffman from the closer role. He has really struggled this year for the Toronto Blue Jays. They're going to go with a closer by committee. It's going to be mainly looks like Lewis Varland, Braden Fisher, and Tyler Rogers. Uh, I know a lot of fans that I know are Jays fans. Obviously, you've heard Neil Coleman from the show. He's a big Jays fan. Him and I are in a group chat with a lot of Jays fans like himself. Uh, a lot of them want Varland to take over the closing role. He has the stuff to do it. He pitched really well last year between Minnesota and Toronto. He's been lights out this year so far. One of the best relievers in baseball so far this year. And he has the stuff to close. He'll definitely get some opportunities. I think he got the first crack at it. Braden Fisher's also going to be involved. That's a surprise. He struggled in the playoffs last year. He's off to a rough start this year. I've heard some fans say he kind of drives him up a wall. I mean, Tyler Rogers, look, he's got that submarine delivery, your old school submarine delivery. He has the stuff to close. He's been one of the more consistent relievers over the last 5 seasons. I think he has closed briefly. I think he fits best as a setup guy. And honestly, Hoffman was an all-star as a setup guy 2 years ago in Philadelphia. He got that big deal from Toronto. They wanted him to close. Last year wasn't great. Pitched well. Late in the season, he pitched a lot better. Had some moments in the playoffs, but also obviously gives up the home run in the game 7. And he's been very bad so far this year. He's cost him a couple of games. And so he's going to be removed with the Jays closer. I wonder if Toronto will do what the Mets did with Edwin Diaz. I think it was 2 years ago. It was his first year coming back off that injury when they suffered in the World Baseball Classic. Got to a slow start. They removed him from the closer role. They put him in a lower leverage role, kind of let him get his confidence back. Then they went to a closer by committee, situation for a few weeks, and they threw him back in the closer role, and then from there he was lights out. So maybe something like that is in the cards. However, if Louis Varland goes in there and is lights out, especially if Hoffman pitches better in a setup role or a middle relief role, I think they'd be silly to to swap him back if it's working. Whatever works. At the end of the day, what got him that big deal with Toronto was his work as a setup guy in Philadelphia 2 years ago. So we'll see where that goes. Boston Red Sox have made sweeping changes. They have fired their manager Alex Cora. They also fire the majority of his staff as well. Pretty much his entire staff was fired. The hitting coach Pete Fatz was fired. Bench coach Ramon Vasquez was let go. The assistant hitting coach Dylan Lawson was let go. The third base coach Kyle Hudson was let go, as was the hitting strategy coach Joe Cronin. The plan was to reassign Jason Varitek, of course, longtime catcher for the Red Sox, is now the game planning coach, to a new role. However, he has decided to leave the organization. So the Red Sox basically fired their entire coaching staff, their minor league manager, their AAA manager, Booster, Chad Tracy, who's a former big leaguer briefly. He is going to take over as the interim manager. I don't understand this at all. Cora is a really good manager. He obviously wins the World Series in his first year there. They were cheating a tiny bit technically, but you know, you know what the Astros were doing. That he was obviously a big part of as the bench coach in 17 with Houston. But this is year eight. Remember, he had the 1 year where he was suspended. Year eight on the job for Boston. He's considering what he's been given. I think he's done a really good job. I think he's a very good manager. I get they are not playing very well at all. You know, upon firing them, they were 10 and 17, one of the worst teams in baseball, considering their payroll. You know, they made the playoffs last year. That's not even close to good enough. I said a week or two ago, I could see him getting fired. Now you have a tumultuous year last year. You make the playoffs. And this year, you got a lot of young talent. You want to take a step forward, and you're this bad. Like at some point, they got to do something, and it did. But at the end of the day, I think Craig Breeslow and John Henry need to look themselves in the mirror. Alex Cora did not was not the one who traded Mookie Betts. Alex Cora did not trade Mookie Betts, a Hall of Fame outfielder, for three death pieces. You got by Alex Verdugo, who's maybe an average starting outfielder for about 3 years, Connor Wong, who's a backup catcher, and Jeter Downs were one of the biggest failed prospects of probably the last decade. He is not the one who did that. He's not the one that this past offseason decided to not pay Alex Bregman, despite him being one of the best third basemen in baseball. And having a great season last year. He's not the one who decided to trade one of the best hitters in baseball, Rafael Devers, in the middle of the season for a couple of minor leaguers. Right after the Red Sox start to finally play some good baseball after a tough stretch in May, you know, and this thing they traded him out the second week in June. Alex Cora did not do that. That wasn't him. He's not the one who brought in what's to this point been a blowout of third baseman in Caleb Durbin in exchange for Kyle Harrison, a young starting pitcher who was the centerpiece of the Devers trade and is pitching his ass off for the Milwaukee Brewers right now. He's not the one who took the other main piece of the Devers trade, James Tibbs, who is raking in AAA for the Dodgers, will probably be up with their team soon. For Dustin May, who you brought in last year to help your bullpen and pitched absolutely terrible for you. Alex Cora did not do any of that. That was Craig Breeslow. That was John Henry. Okay? Alex Cora's not the one who had the opportunity to go out and sign a guy like Pete Alonso. That's not him. Okay? He's not the guy. And I get it, they're not playing well. They've had a lot of defensive issues. It's been very glaring. I get it. You know, you're in the boat to where it's not Cora's fault, but you're at the point to where you gotta think Burrito's gotta be starting to feel the heat. You gotta think they're both gotta be on the hot seat. You're stick it out with Cora the rest of the year. Keep going down this path. Probably lose 90 games. Everyone's fired after the year, or you can try and fix it. You fire him, you know, hope it light the fire under these guys' asses, sparks them. You bring in Chad Tracy from AAA and hope that, you know, sparks them and end up turning things around. Baseball's a really long year. Sometimes guys just need a kick in the pants. And the only way to really do it, you know, if you think you can't fix it internally, is to make a change like this. Is that really fair to Alex Cora? The problem here, it's not being handled properly. Rizzo and Henry told the players like they couldn't make any comments about it. Like they were basically told from what we heard from some players, I think Garrett Crochet said, they were basically told that they get paid to play and not worry about this. And they basically were told play better. So they were kind of blamed for this, which isn't horrendously unfair. I mean, they're the ones out there who are 10 and 17. They obviously should be a lot better. But my lord. You could have handled that a little bit better. You could have at least said, you know, look, we're making a change. What's happened has been unacceptable. You know, we think Chad Tracy gives us a better chance, even if that's BS. I think it is. At least, you know, upfront and honest of what your thoughts process was, and give players the opportunity. Like if you're unhappy, I understand. You know, if you want to meet with me in private, then we can set that up. Don't just tell them, all right, this is happening. If you don't like it, you can go F yourself. None that are worried about this, like they're a child being put in timeout. Like that's being handled very poorly. I'm not sure how Chad Tracy's going to help this group. Like I just don't understand. That's it going into the year. I think this team is a solid team. At their ceiling, they're probably a 90-win team. We're very competitive in the American League East. Will be a playoff team. But at their floor, this is a team that's looking at, 75 wins and in fourth place in the division and out of the playoffs. I said in the past, they have a ton of starting pitching depth. That's great. But I don't know what their bullpen looks like behind their oldest Chapman and Garrett Whitlock. I don't know what it looks like. And that lineup, they have a lot of depth, a lot of young talent. That Roman Anthony will be great. He hasn't been great so far, but it's still early. I think the talent on that kid is incredible. You saw it last year before he got hurt. There's a reason he got that big contract, even only a couple of months into his career at 21 years of age. But they don't have, enough boppers. They don't have enough, power bats in that lineup. They're relying on a lot of young guys and a lot of depth. And that can work. If Roman Anthony takes that big step forward that some people think he will do, and has a 40 homer season and is an all-star, that will be very helpful. But to this point, we haven't seen that, and that's not going to happen. Like, not saying he'll have a bad year, but let's say he goes out and has a good year. He hits 26 home runs, we'll say, and doesn't take as big a jump as some people thought he was going to. That could make for some problems in that lineup, and it has. They've also been very bad defensively, which is very, very alarming. So, Torres out. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but they're just trying to salvage us even. That being said, I have to talk with the New York Mets. This team sucks, okay? They are absolutely horrendous. And this is all on David Stearns. This doofus talked about run prevention and then went out, signed the second baseman to play first, who can't play first, signed the shortstop to play third. The center fielder he brought in can't play center field. He sucks, and this team sucks. This lineup is absolutely atrocious, okay? This absolute dork in David Stern and this piece of garbage lets Pete Alonso, your all-time home run leader, who had 37 and 120 RBIs, whatever he had last year, walking for agency, replace him with Jorge Polanco, who sucks. He's washed. He's been terrible, and now he's hurt. He trades Brendan Nimmo. Last year, 25 home runs, solid defender in the outfield. Trades him for Marcus Semien, who's been declining for 2 years. He is absolutely cooked. He can't hit. His gold glove is gone at second base. He's sucks, okay? He's cooked. He's absolutely cooked. And Jeff McNeil, your second baseman last year, you shipped him up to the A's for no reason. I said when it happened. Mets fans are too harsh on Jeff McNeil. No, he's not an all-star anymore, but he's still a solid player, still a decent hitter, still a decent second baseman. He can play third, can play the outfield, good clubhouse guy. There was no reason to trade this guy away for nothing. If you were to get like a solid bullpen arm back that can help you, fine. But to trade him for literally nothing and pay like half his contract, that was stupid. I would have loved to have him as an option off the bench at the very least. Okay, that was stupid. Bo Bichette has been horrible. Had that one three-run double against the Twins last week. Kudos to him. Other than that, he has been a train wreck. He has been horrible. $42 million of pure garbage. Just garbage. By the way, again, run prevention. He's a shortstop who we were all talking about to move to second base because of his deficiencies defensively, is out playing third. And it's going as poorly as we all thought it would. Luis Robert, nice start to plate. Now he sucks again. He can't hit all of a sudden. His bat looks like it was the last 2 years with the White Sox. Terrible. Whoever told me that he's an elite defender in center field was wrong. He's been terrible. Because of the hole you still have in the outfield, you got to play Carson Bench every day when he's clearly not ready. He barely played in AAA last year. The guy is not ready. I don't even blame the kid. I like the kid. I think he could be a good ball player one day. But the guy is not ready. He's overmatched up there. He's hitting like 130. You got to play Mark Fields, a third baseman at first base. That has looked terrible. He's been terrible. So it's that 1 week where he was high. Got Brett Baty now playing right field where he's never done before, besides maybe a couple of times in the minor leagues several years ago. He looks all out of whack in the field and the plate. He's been terrible. The only guy hitting is Francisco Alvarez, their catcher, an MJ1 that has been DHing for the most part. He's been with the Mets for about 2 weeks. They signed him for death in the offseason. He started the year in the minor leagues. They had to call him up because of the injuries to Hoy Polanco. Juan Soto's now back. Now Francisco Lindor is hurt. Going to be out for at least a few weeks if I can't figure. Jared Young was playing well. He's hurt. And this absolute moron of a general manager, David Stearns, looked at that horrific rotation and decided, let's bring in one starting pitcher in Freddie Peralta. He's running Freddie Peralta. He gives up one of your best young pitchers in Brandon Sproat, pitched briefly last year, one of your top prospects, and Jet Williams, the number one prospect, who's going to be ready to help you at some point this year. And you trade in for Freddie Peralta, who's a good pitcher. Obviously, great year last year. But after the fifth inning, falls apart. He doesn't go deep enough into ball games. You're going to give up two top prospects. He's going to be gone by July. You didn't bring in a single starting pitcher other than him. You ran back Kowai Senga after the disaster he was last year. You brought back David Pierce after the disaster he was down the stretch last year. And look what it's done. Senga sucks. He is cooked. He's absolutely terrible. Couldn't get a third inning against the freaking Colorado Rockies. You couldn't score against the Colorado Rockies. You got swept by the Colorado Rockies. You got swept 4 of your last 5 series. This team is pathetic. And I get, all right, Edwin Diaz chose to leave. Fine. Whatever. You got more money to go to the Dodgers. There are 2 defending champs. The Mets are a good organization. Never have been. I get it. Your replacements. Devin Williams has been terrible. I get he was elite for years before last year with the Yankees. He never got for 1 minute. You know, his postseason struggles in the past. Stearns had him in Milwaukee. He knows the guy. You know, the Mets, he watched the Mets on his first year with the team. Pete Alonso hit a walk-off home run against them in the 9th inning to send the Mets to the next round of the playoff, from the greatest moments in Mets postseason history. And he decided, let's let Pete walk and overpay Devin Williams. 3 years and $51 million for a declining closer. What in the hell? Luke Weaver isn't cutting it. Here's running Luis Garcia. That guy sucked for a week and was DFA'd. That guy sucks. He absolutely sucks. David Stearns sucks. The team he put on the field absolutely sucks. I can't even blame Carlos Mendoza. He's managing the team that was put on the field. Okay? He's managing his team that sucks. David Stearns is a worthless guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in every room because he has some stupid Ivy League diploma that means nothing. In retrospect, he knows nothing about how to build a baseball team. He's trying to penny pinch like he's still in bumfuck Milwaukee, still trying to build the Milwaukee Brewers. He's not. The guy is the GM for the New York Mets, and he sucks. And Steve Cohen sucks too. The fact that he waved around with these quirky, pathetic interim GMs, you know, year after year after year, but to wait for this guy's contract to end to bring him in on a 5-year deal is pathetic. That's just pathetic, okay? And all he wanted was his little casino. He just wanted the power. He just wanted so that he owns a baseball team. He built this casino. Now the guy doesn't care. He's a worthless, rich asshole. And if he tweets one more time that, oh, the thing's about to turn around, I'm going to punch him in the face, okay? He's a pathetic, rich piece of garbage who should shut his goddamn mouth before I sew it shut. Screw you, Steve Cohen. You suck. David Stearns sucks, and the Mets suck, okay? David Stearns is a horrific general manager. Maybe the worst GM in Mets history. Mets saying something. They've had some bad ones. He blows. He's terrible. He's a complete douchebag. If I see his slimy face one more time talk to the media, I'm going to clothesline his ass, okay? He is a piece of garbage, and he sucks. And Mendoza's going to be fired. They have no choice. Same thing with the freaking Red Sox. Either you let this thing play out the rest of the year, you lose 90 games, everyone's fired, or you fire Mendoza. And this team, they need an asshole manager. Get some sort of asshole manager in here. Not Carlos Beltran, an ex-player who's trying to relive his glory. Not Andy Green, the old crappy politics manager who works for your front office. Not whoever the goddamn bench coach is. Bring in Alex Cora, pay him whatever he wants. He's a good manager. Say what about Mendoza, whether you like him, you hate him. I defended him this whole time. Cora's a better manager than him. Get him in here and see if it works. If it doesn't, too bad, so sad. Everyone gets fired anyway. In fact, maybe better off just keep Mendoza, lose every game the rest of the year, finish with 98 losses, and so Stearns gets fired so this owner and this team can learn. The Mets suck, David Stearns sucks, and Steve Cohen sucks. Over the last few days, we had a lot of big WWE releases. This typically happens about once or twice every year. I've noticed, I've kind of noticed the timeline. Usually, like not too long after WrestleMania, like late spring, early summer, they release a bunch of talent usually, and maybe one more time, maybe like a little bit before the Royal Rumble, maybe like in the fall or so. Usually like in between Mania and some in between SummerSlam and the Rumble. Typically, there's like one or two uh talents that get let out that, fans for the most part they were a fan of, they're not talentless necessarily, but just there was just no use for them in the company. They weren't doing a whole lot. And then just a bunch of other random, people who should have been employed anyway. Maybe there's just some like developmental talent just weren't well developing. Not that big of a deal. It happens, WWE is a business, everyone understands it. Obviously, there's been some big ones. Obviously, when the whole R-Truth thing was a disaster, that obviously had to bring him back. Obviously, letting go of Carlito was something that most fans throwing that over. I personally did not think it was the right decision to let go of Karrion Kross. I thought that was handled very poorly. I happen to be a fan of it. Though some people think, he wasn't good, I happen to think there was a lot more of Karrion Kross than what we saw, and I thought that was a shame that he was let go. But the names that were let go this time around were staggering. These are the names that were let go. Kairi Sane, Aleister Black, Zelina Vega, the entire Wyatt Six, Uncle Howdy, of course, Bo Dallas, Nikki Cross, Dexter Lumis, Eric Rowan, and Joe Gacy, Santos Escobar, the Motor City Machine Guns, the tag team, also Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, and Apollo Cruz get let go. Apollo Cruz, I don't know how he survived all these cuts over the years. They call him the main event GOAT. That the main event. It's the show that airs, I think, right before Raw or SmackDown. It's a way to get guys reps who aren't getting on television. Uh, Cruz was very often on that program. He had a lot of different matches with a lot of different guys. I think he had one with Ludwig Kaiser. He had one with Bronson Reed. He had a bunch with some other guys. He had a match with Mr. Iguana recently on that show. He's gone. Alba Fire. I do think Alba Fire has some talent, but she was never used properly. That one I don't mind. Zoe Stark, it really is a shame because she was really uplifted by Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus really did a good job putting her over when they were working together a couple of years ago. And I thought she was maybe, next up in the women's division. Never happened. She's been on TV maybe 5 times in the last 2 years. Obviously, Pure Fusion Collective, as I call them, no pop collective because they literally got no reaction when they came out. Her, Shayna Baszler, and Sonya Deville was obviously an absolute disaster. But Zoe was let go. She's been irrelevant for a couple of years now. But the Wyatt Six, what a missed opportunity. What do you expect to happen when you put them in a 6 month boring feud with the MFTs? They've been feuding since October. October. What do you expect to get done with them? They lost all their traction, obviously, because you put them in meaningless feuds. There were so many opportunities for you to use a guy like Bo Dallas, who I think is really talented. I think is a really good storyteller. You could tell he took a lot of inspiration from his brother, God rest his soul, of course, Bray Wyatt. And you just wasted all that talent. I happen to like Eric Rowan a lot. I think Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy, at least as a tag team, had good chemistry. As individuals, I think have some talent. Even Nikki Cross, there was ways that you could use her, and just none of it happened. The fact that you did nothing of Alexa Bliss in the 2 or 3 years that you had the Wyatt Six is embarrassing. Embarrassing. Honestly, if I'm Bray Wyatt's family, obviously Bo Dallas is his brother in real life, and then the rest of his family, I'm really angry about this. I'm like, they were what they were doing at the end of the day. Yeah, it gave them a chance to really showcase their individual talents. But at the end of the day, they were just trying to honor Bray Wyatt, which is a very noble thing. And they were doing a really good job with it when they got the chance. And it's kind of like they weren't given the fair shot at it. And it's really a shame. Aleister Black, you brought him back about literally almost a year to a day, but he was fired. He was supposed to be in the main event of WrestleMania and help Randy Orton. He was supposed to be the guy on the phone with Randy. And then TKO was like, oh no, Pat McAfee's in. You're out. Like the guy beat Sami Zayn recently. He was in the ring of Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes recently. Why are you letting him go? And like Zelina Vega just came out and said, obviously this is his life in real life, that she wanted, remember her US tournament was horrible? Everyone's like, oh, well, she wasn't a very good wrestler. She wanted to make that U.S. title great. She came out and said it. I think she was on a live stream and someone asked her. She said she wanted to take it all over the world too. She wanted to take it to Japan. She wanted to take it to Mexico with AAA. She wanted to be the workhorse title, and they just didn't let her defend it. So she tried, they just wouldn't let her. That really is a shame. And she was doing some really good work with Aleister Black, and she's now gone. And Santos Escobar, I know he wasn't doing much lately, but when he turned heel on Rey Mysterio a couple of years ago, there was so much potential. He needed to be the U.S. champion that day, that week, and they just buried him for no reason. They put him as like Garza and Berto's managers. Like they did some cool stuff in AAA. They won the tag team titles in AAA, and then they eventually drop it, and they've been off TV for the most part for a while now. They've had a couple of tag team matches. That's about it. It's a shame because I think he's really talented, but they've not used him at all for like 2 years now. And now he's been let go. And mostly Machine Guns, again, what was the point of signing them if you're going to do nothing with them for 2 years and then release them? Like, the Mostly Machine Guns rock. They're one of the best tag teams in the world. And they'll probably be the AEW tag champs in like a month from now. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, why would you release them? The tag team division is cooked. The WWE Tag Team Champions is R-Truth and Damian Priest. Damian Priest has been irrelevant for 2 years. R-Truth, who I love, I even like Damian Priest. R-Truth is a comedic act. He's made a Hall of Fame career out of being a comedic act. And those are your tag team champion. Meanwhile, Fraxium is sitting in catering. The Creed brothers are sitting in catering. The Mostly Machine Guns just got let go. The White Six just got let go. Yeah, MFTs get 20 minutes of screen time every SmackDown. Like, how are those guys still employed? Well, I know why, because they're related to Rikishi and Roman Reigns and all them, and The Rock. Tonga Loa botched laying on a table. He's the most talentless performer I've ever seen. Okay? Toa Tonga has two moves. He has a choke slam and a big boot. He's just tall. Toa Tonga, not great in the ring. Doesn't bring you much on the mic. I haven't hated his character work lately with like the internal feud with Solo Sikoa. Like, why is he even him? Like, he's not as talented as a lot of these other people that were let go. And Jason Mateo, who is talented, but he's useless. He's irrelevant. They made him irrelevant somehow. Like, how are all those guys still employed? But the Mostly Machine Guns aren't. And Kairi Sane, the whole point of the Asuka and Io angle was Kairi Sane. She was doing some excellent character work, and she was, the whole point of the storyline was to have Asuka and Io have what's a dream match, and then Kairi turns face on Asuka, and they end up having a match. That was one of the most interesting storylines you have on television. It was one of the only interesting storylines you have on television. And you just dropped the angle leading up to WrestleMania for no reason. Io's got a side character in the Rhea Jade feud, and this Asuka, one of the best women wrestlers of all time, didn't even get on the card. Kairi's been working really hard this last year, didn't even get on the card. And then you cut Kairi Sane, and we're never going to hear, we're never going to see the end of this storyline. Like, what do Io and Asuka do now? Do they just drop it? Do they throw them in the ring for a random match? Which I'll have a good match. It's Io Stein and Asuka for crying out loud. But what's the point? At least let her finish the storyline. She should have been let go regardless, but at least let her finish the storyline. And this is what TKO's going to do. When they stop making them money, they are going to get rid of you. So always talent that isn't being used. Like Julia, probably going to be let go. Not if you lost the U.S. title. Kiana James, I think she'll get a push. She'll be let go soon. Okay? I think Ray Fangs is incredible. They're not using him for some reason. I'm sure they'll let him go soon. And like I'm telling people, LA Knight's going to be released in the next year. It's gonna happen. And in fact, people shouldn't be mad at it. The only way that guy can get ahead in his career is if he leaves WWE. Okay, he's going to be gone soon. Okay, so get ready for it. Okay, get ready for it. The women's mid card is cooked. There's one wrestler in, it's Tiffany Stratton. The tag team division is just gone. It's cooked. SmackDown was already a train wreck. Now half the roster of that brand is gone. WWE is cooked. They will fold because of TKO. Last segment, we're going to talk some football. So Packers extend Jaden Reed, 3 years for $50.2 million with $20 million guaranteed. Reed was injured a lot last year, but the previous 2 years was very productive after being, I think, a second-round pick by 2023 out of Michigan State. Out of Western Michigan. Oh, no, yeah, he went to He started with Michigan. He finished at Michigan State. Rookie year, 64 catches, 793 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Last 2 years ago, 55 catches, 857 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I think he's a very solid receiver. And going into his contract year, Packers give him an extension, so kudos to him. I want to talk about some of the NFL draft hauls that I liked and I didn't like. I liked a lot of these hauls. Some honorable mentions. I like what the Eagles did. Howard Roseman always finds a way. This guy knows Egypt is hanging up a door. He ends up trading up for Makai Lemon, who is going to be a great receiver. He gets to pair him with Devonta Smith. Taking Eli Stowers in the second round. Again, they're great at finding talent. You know, when you have an older player who knows on the way out, especially at the tight end position. When Brett Salk was getting older, they take Zach Ertz on day two. Ertz turns into an All Pro. When Ertz was getting older, they trade up for Dallas Goedert in the second round. Goddard has turned into a Pro Bowler. Goddard's now probably in his last year with the Eagles. He goes out and takes Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. I think he will be good. You can run some two tight ends. That's a lot this year with those two. And then eventually you can, Stowers will take over probably next year. And you take a flyer on even Cole Payton taking a flyer on him, the quarterback in the fifth round at North Dakota State. He's similar to Jalen Hurts. I think you could use him maybe as like a wildcat guy. I thought it was kind of intriguing. He took a flyer on Uar Bernard from Nigeria as a defensive lineman. He's like 6'8", and he ran rental 4.6. So that's an interesting prospect if nothing else. And you end up picking up Jonathan Grenard from the Vikings for two third round picks, one in this year's class and one next year. He was injured last year for most of the season, but previous 2 years he had back-to-back 12 sack seasons. So with Texans and then the Vikings, so he's very good. So remember, we all thought it was a big loss in losing Julian Phillips. Now Grenard's a couple years older than Phillips, but he's still only 28. Outside of last year and the 2022 year, he's been a lot healthier than Julian Phillips has. It's for a little bit less money, and I think right now Jonathan Grenard is a better player than Julian Phillips for sure. And he knows that he's probably getting a second or a third round pick in 27 back for AJ Brown. So he can get that 27 third back for AJ Brown. That trade will probably be happening in June, probably with the Patriots. So really good job by Howie Roseman in this draft as per usual. Smart draft I liked. I have a lot of honorable mentions, so I don't want to leave anybody out. I actually thought the Cleveland Browns did a pretty decent job. You trade back and get Spencer Fano. Again, not sure if he can play on the left side, but he's a very good offensive tackle who could kick into guard if needed. They pick up a very good off the line, which is what they needed. And you get a couple of nice weapons. Casey Concepcion, who I'm not sure if 24 is great value for him, but I don't think he would have gotten to them in the second round. I think he could be a solid slot receiver. Denzel Boston in the second round at pick 39 was a really good pick. He'll be a good possession receiver, like a Michael Pittman type. You move up in the second round to get Emmanuel McNeil Warren. That was a good pick. I think he'll be a solid safety. I think he was third best safety in this class. I thought he had a case that you can go in the first round. You got him towards the end of round two. So I think that's the Browns actually bringing a couple of nice pieces in this draft. The Carolina Panthers did a good job in this draft. I like their draft. Monroe Freeling, this allows you to play him at left tackle, maybe kick Walker inside. Now, Aquanu can play guard full time. He might miss time this year after getting hurt in the playoff game. And then those first couple picks, getting Lee Hunter, trading up to get him in the second round. You put him next to Derek Brown with Jordan Phillips off the edge. All of a sudden, that Carolina D-line looks really good. That defense was already good. It gets even better. I like you taking Chris Brazell the second out of Tennessee. I think he'll be a solid receiver. Him, Xavier Legette, not Xavier Legette, Ted McMillan, and Jalen Coker. I don't hate that trio whatsoever. So I think they did a good job getting three good players in this draft to help your team. In the Indianapolis Colts, who did not have a lot of draft picks from the Sauce Gardner trade, but considering the picks they had, I thought they did a good job. You trade up to get C.J. Allen in the second round. I like C.J. Allen. I know he's a little bit of a limited player, but he's a downfield thumper. He's really good against the run. He can blitz. You need a replacement for Zaire Franklin. You get it with C.J. Allen. And getting A.J. Holsey in the third round is also a really good job by them. He's a really good safety. I thought should have went in the second round. You get him in the third round, trading up to get Brian Bedeker, linebacker out of Oregon, in the fourth round. You really closed up that hole at linebacker that you had. And you had AJ Halsey. You know you're trading Kenny Moore. I'm assuming in June he will be traded for a pick next year. So I'm assuming whatever pick or picks you gave up, to move up and they're going to need picks. If you don't have a first rounder next year, I'd imagine they give up a third rounder for CJ Allen and maybe like a fifth rounder for something like that for Bebecher. You can get one or two of those picks back for Kenny Moore. So I think I've come down hard on Chris Ballard a lot in recent years, but he did a good job considering with what he's working with. Kansas City Chiefs also I thought had a very solid draft. I love the Peter Woods pick. Well, I like both there first. You move up to get Delane, get yourself a shutdown corner. Peter Woods is going to be a really good D tackle. Put him next to Chris Jones. Woo-wee. R. Mason Thomas in the second round. I thought they could have went different direction, but I like you bringing him in. And then you take Jaden Candy, it's the safety from Oregon in the fourth round. I like him. Now your secondary looks relatively revamped, even after trading away McDuffie and losing Watson. With you sign that guy from San Francisco, you draft Delane, now you draft Kennedy. You also took a flyer on Emmett Johnson, trading up to get him in the fifth round. I think he could be a decent running back. You put him behind Kenneth Walker. Now you got some decent depth at running back, so I like what the Chiefs did. Two more honorable mentions. Miami Dolphins. I don't. They were a mixed bag to me, the Miami Dolphins. I thought they reached a little bit on Proctor. They do me offensive line. And, trading out Caleb Downs. I don't love that. But the rest of their draft, I thought actually makes a lot of sense. They actually have a zillion draft picks in this class. You move up a few spots to get Chris Johnson, who I think will be a good corner. I think you get a steal at 40, what was it, 43? With Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker at Texas Tech. I thought he could have went in the first round. I like that. Trading out to get Chris Bell in the third round was a good move. I thought he was a second round prospect. Get him in the third round was really good value. It's a solid receiver. It gives your quarterback, whoever you draft next year, something. Even Kyle Lewis in the trading up, get him in the fourth round, linebacker out of Pitt. I think he could be pretty good. So though I think there was a missed opportunity in the first round with that first pick, a lot of what I did was pretty good, and they obviously just had so many picks. And then the Chicago Bears, I thought did a good job in this draft. You got a steal and Dylan Diamond at 25. He falls into your lap. That's a good job by them. You take Logan Jones with center out of Iowa in the second round. Iowa linemen usually turn out really good. I like what tight end Sam Roosh, they'll run out of Stanford. This allows you to move off of Cole Kmet either this year or next year. You can pair Roosh with Colton Loveland. And then with the fourth rounder that you got in the Bryce Young trade a couple of years ago, you take Malik Muhammad, the corner of Texas, who could be pretty good. That's a fill need. Now to my true top five drafts. Number five is the Las Vegas Raiders. They did some really nice things in this draft. The Las Vegas Raiders, obviously Mendoza was a no-brainer at one. He's here going to take a shot at building around. I like Tre'Don Stukes in the second round. Yeah, the better pick was probably Halsey. But I think Stukes should be a solid safety. You move up to get him at pick 38. I like that. I don't hate Cameron Crawford, the third round edge at Auburn. Even in the fourth round, Trey's in the third, the center. I know you have Linderbaum there. Even Jackson Powers Johnson playing guard, but that line was so banged up last year. It's important to have some depth. And you trade up to get the first pick of the fourth round and take Drummond McCoy. Also, the knee injury made him fall. He's got some sort of cartilage issue after the torn ACL last year, but he was my number two corner in this class. I thought he was for sure first round talent. If he didn't get hurt, he would have obviously been a very high pick. I think that's an incredible gamble to take. There's no risk involved. That could work out really well for them. You also get Mike Washington in the fourth round. I think he could be a solid running back. This allows you to kind of lay back the workload on Ashton Genty. Other Raiders did a really good job. Number four, I have the Buccaneers. So they have not drafted well in recent years, but this year wasn't an exception. Ruben Bates falling to your lap is incredible. He's going to be a stud edge rusher. I like him a lot. Just like Trotter, obviously, his dad and his brother Jeremiah played for the Eagles and in Missouri. I think he'll be good. Ted Hurst, you move up to get him in the third round. That was a really good pick out of Georgia State. I think he'll be a very good receiver. Taking a chance on Kente Scott, the back out of Miami. Excuse me, the corner out of Miami, picking up Kalen's got or whatever his name is, the Niners took. But Keon Scott I think will be a good core to get him in the fourth round. Bucks did a really good job. And they also addressed their needs. They needed to replace Levante David, and they do. You had Ted Hurst on the receiver in that room. Scott could replace Jamal Dean. So good job by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At three, I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. I I'll say this with the Ravens. A lot of people thought that they should take Ruben Bain. You think, oh, you put him on the line? No. How good that would be. Kudos to them for not being tempted and doing the right thing and taking Vega Iane. They have to protect Lamar Jackson. This team runs through Derrick Henry, pounding the rock up the middle between the tackles and Lamar Jackson's quarterback design runs. Vega Iane is a road graver in run protection. A great run blocker, best guard in the class. Take him at 14 like you should have. I love them getting Zion on the edge out of Missouri, so you still got a good edge rusher in this draft. That was a good pick. You get Jacoby Lane, the receiver at USC in the third round. Elijah Surratt in the fourth round out of Indiana. I like him a lot. He just adds some speed on the outside, which is important in an offense like that. I like the Ravens did a really good job. I even like Chandler Rivers, the corner out of Duke. You try to get him in the fifth round. Number two, I would New York Giants did a really good job with this draft. Okay, I think they did a really good job. Well, I'm not sure if that was Shane or somebody else, but Aubrey Fulton's your lap at five. I think, could be a great edge rusher. Some concerns of him, his ceiling very high, but floor very low. But I think could be a superstar. Nothing else should be at least a very good edge rusher, off-ball linebacker. A lot of people wanted them to take down to 10, and I do get that, but you do get a really good offensive lineman in Mawaya. I think you need another lineman. He can play guard, he can play tackle. I like Colton Hood at 37. I think he'll be a solid corner, something you needed. You try to get Malachi Fields from the third round on Notre Dame. I'm not sure how good he'll be. Those number receivers haven't really worked out, but Fields should be pretty solid. I like him. I think Giants did a really good job. And the sound makes Kayvon Thibodeau expendable. Maybe you can get the pick you get back from moving up to take Fields next year for Kayvon Thibodeau. Number one, I'm going with the New York Jets. I don't mean to be biased. I don't like to be biased on this show, but I think Jets had a fantastic draft. I think David Bell was the right pick at two. He's a really high floor edge rusher who should be very, very good in this league. Major need. You get yourself a red zone threat tight end in Kenyon Sadiq. Gives you two good tight ends of Sadiq and Mason Taylor. Frank can now run two tight end sets. Omar Cooper, you move up to get it at 30. I like him a lot. The guy who's really, really good with the ball in his hands. You get a steal with D'Angelo Pounds. You move back in the second round to get him at 50. That's a really good value. He'll be a very good corner, a major need from the New York Jets. Didn't love them moving up to get Kate Klubnik in the fourth round. They're obviously looking for a long-term backup. I would have rather them kind of just waited around for Garrett Nussmeier. Maybe take a flyer on one of these athletic freaks, but just not a great quarterback kind of guy. Maybe use him somewhere else, like Taylor Green or Cole Young. But Darrell Jackson in the fourth round, the D tackle of Florida State, should be pretty good. And VJ Payne, the center from the safety at K-State, could be a solid player as well. So I think overall they had the best draft of any of the teams. Now I'm going to give you five first I did not like, and then we're going to get out of here. So number five, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I understand the Akeem Mesidor pick. Khalil Mack is getting much older, going to be retiring soon. He can learn from him, but the kid's 25 years old. He played across from Ruben Bain in college. I don't know how productive he's going to be in the NFL. I don't think he was a first-round player. You take him at 22, especially when he could have gotten Justin Herbert a weapon or an offensive lineman. I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity. And, I don't hate some of their other picks, like Brendan Thompson, the fourth round of Mississippi State. He's a really fast receiver. Jake Slaughter, the center out of Florida, at the end of a second round, you trade up for. I don't hate those things, but I thought they had a really good opportunity to take a weapon or a piece up front for Herbert, and they didn't do that. You don't address that early enough in this draft for me. Number four, I'm gonna go with the Minnesota Vikings. I think they reached on Banks. I said before, I like the kid. He's got a lot of talent, but so many injury concerns. Don't let him sitting right there for you. You need guys that can win now. You're in a spot to where you gotta make the playoffs this year, or Kevin McConnell's probably getting fired. And look, some of the other stuff I did wasn't horrible. Like Jake Golday, you move up for him in the second round of linebacker out of Cincinnati. That's not a bad pick. Dominic Lawrence at the D tackle out of Iowa State isn't a bad pick, but you already took Banks earlier in my draft, so I don't love what they did overall. Number three, I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers. They're weird. They seem to like always find talent, but they're not good at drafting. That doesn't make any sense. You got a major reach at 33 if you trade back twice for the zone stripping the receiver. There were so many better receivers on the board. You take Romello Height, you tried to get him in the third round. That was a reach. Keaton Black, the running back of Indiana in the third round. I don't hate him, but that was a reach too. I like the Grace Hall to pick the D tackle out of Oklahoma in the fourth round. That's going to be a tough front if they're healthy. Nick Bosa, Micah Williams. You brought in Osa, whatever his name is from Dallas. You draft Halton. I like their defensive line a lot. But other than that, they did not do a good enough job in this draft. I did not like what John Lynch did. Number two is Los Angeles Rams. I mean, it starts with Ty Simpson, probably the worst pick of the first round. Not sure why you reach for a third round quarterback at the end of the day. Who is going to play for at least 2 years when you could have out of a really good win now piece? And they didn't have many draft picks. There was just no pick that really stood out. I don't hate Max Player, the Ohio State tight end in the second round, but I really could have gotten him around later. I did not like what the Rams did. And number one, I really did like what the Arizona Cardinals did. I talked about Jeremiah Love already. Great player, will be a dynamic back, but you can't take a running back at three of this many holes on the roster, and you're paying him all that money. I don't hate Chris Pasantis at 34, but I think it's a slight reach. I think you reached on Carson Beck in the third round. I think he's at best a backup, but his attitude might get in the way. And there was just nothing about the draft that I thought the Arizona Cardinals did right. But that's all I got for you guys today. Till next time, so long. Have a great day.